is the sort of moment that probably deserves to pass without too much extraneous political comment. President Obama saluting the coffin of Army Sergeant Dale Griffin during the dignified transfer ceremony for Sergeant Griffin at Dover Air Base early yesterday morning. The presence of the President of the United States at this stirring ceremony was to Liz Cheney just too good an opportunity to pass up to take a political whack at President Obama.
I don't understand sort of showing up with the White House press pool with photographers and asking family members if you can take pictures. That's really hard for me to get my head around. It was a surprising way for the president to choose to do it. I think, what President Bush used to do was to do it without the cameras. Actually,
that's not true at all. President George W. Bush didn't attend ceremonies at Dover with or without cameras. He never went. A spokesman for the former president tonight confirming with us that Mr. Bush, in fact, never attended the arrival of an American soldier at Dover, which means that Liz Cheney is wrong again. This is starting to feel familiar. Not about her opinion about things, but about what she says are the facts of modern American political issues that she's called on to discuss as a pseudo-pundit, as a pseudo-stand-in for her father. Here she is talking about her father, former Vice President Dick Cheney, and the link between Iraq, al-Qaeda, and 9/11.
He has not said that there is a connection between Saddam Hussein and 9/11.
So says Liz Cheney. Let's go to the videotape from the reality-based community.
If we're successful in Iraq, we will have struck a major blow right at the heart of the base, if you will, the geographic base of the terrorists who've had us under assault now for many years, but most especially on 9/11.
Liz Cheney wrong again. She also had this exchange with Joan Walsh from Salon.com on the subject of the prison at Guantanamo and the issue of sending Guantanamo prisoners to the United States.
President Bush in June 2009 gave a speech where he said he would close it and he would bring people home and try them here.
I'm sorry, he did not say he would bring terrorists onto the homeland. No, he didn't say that.
In fact, in June 2006, not June 2009, but in June 2006, President Bush did say exactly that.
I'd like to end Guantanamo. I'd like it to be over with. There are some who need to be tried in U.S. courts.
Tried in U.S. courts, as in courts in the U.S., the thing that Liz Cheney says he never said. And then there was Liz Cheney's attack on President Obama and the issue of American exceptionalism.
We've now seen several different occasions when he's been on these international trips when he's not been willing to say flat out, I believe in American exceptionalism.
And then there's the truth.
I believe in American exceptionalism.
Liz Cheney, wrong again. And now to my favorite, Liz Cheney's pressure group, Keep America Safe, and its web ad showing clips of her organization receiving critical coverage on this network, interspersed with provocative questions like this one.
Why don't they want to debate the issues?
Actually, we do want to debate the issues. And as I've said many, many times before, our booking producers have repeatedly called Liz Cheney and invited her to be a guest on this show to, as they say, debate the issues. We called her again today, and as usual, got no response. Why doesn't Liz Cheney want to debate the issues?
President Bush never went to Dover Air Force Base to honor dead American soldiers on their final journey home. And Vice President Cheney never did either. Hey, Liz, have you ever lost a relative in battle? I have. My cousin Johnny, West Point graduate, just like his father before him. I wish the president or the vice president had met his casket on the way home. You know what never means, Liz? It means zero. It means that in over 7 years of 2 wars, your dad never left the comfort of his White House office or the vice president's mansion and got himself up to Dover to bear witness to how his warmongering fell on families of dead American soldiers. Never, not once. Liz, don't let your dad do this to you. Don't let him parade you onto the stage to defend the indefensible. Let him suffer the full weight of the shame that we know he must feel when he watches Barack Obama do what he never had the decency to do. President Bush did meet with grieving military families in private, and he went to military hospitals to visit the wounded. As for Ms. Cheney's reference to cameras, the policy of banning media coverage of coffins continued unaltered throughout the Bush administration. Thus, even families that wanted media coverage of their loved one's ceremony were not given any choice in the matter. Furthermore, President Obama did not make any special requests to any of yesterday's 18 families, as Ms. Cheney implies. I mean, lies. The vast majority of those families had already made their individual decisions about media coverage under the current policy before the notification that President Obama would be part of the ceremony. As for Dick Cheney, when he was vice president, he sometimes met with the war wounded, but like President Bush, he never went to Dover either. Never. And a reminder, Mr. Cheney successfully sought out 5 deferments from the draft to avoid having to serve his country in the Vietnam War. Mr. Cheney's 5th and final deferment, a result of his wife becoming pregnant with Liz. Mr. Cheney was granted a 3A status, the hardship exemption by his draft board, which was available to men with children at that time. Let's call in MSNBC political analyst, author of Renegade, The Making of a President, and senior strategist at Public Strategies, Richard Wolff. Good evening, Richard.
Good evening, Lawrence.
We predicted with Michael Betzschloss on this show last night that, of course, the president would be criticized by someone. It comes as no surprise that Liz Cheney was the very, very first to rush to the microphones. What does the Cheney family think this country thinks when, after 7 years of failure by Dick Cheney's strategizing on Afghanistan, President Obama is left at Dover, still receiving war dead from Afghanistan?
Well, here's what is offensive and egregious about the criticism from the Cheney family about what President Obama has done with war policy review and with what he did at Dover Air Force Base. The idea, the sort of central founding idea that Cheney had was that after Vietnam, or through Vietnam, the country lost its willpower, it lost its seriousness about national security challenges and disrespected the troops. And therefore, it was really important for future presidents to respect the contribution, the sacrifice of American servicemen and women. And that's what President Obama has been doing. That's what the policy review is. You can say that he's taking too long. You can disagree with the policy results at the end of it. But you can't say that he's not taking it seriously. And you cannot say that he's not showing the utmost respect for the fallen and the troops who are currently serving. And I just think that, I don't understand why Liz Cheney would think that the cameras themselves are disrespectful. I thought it was a very responsible, honorable coverage of something that we should all respect and pay our utmost respect and honor for. So the whole criticism is perplexing.
The Cheney family criticism currency is totally devalued, I think, in our political discussion these days. But doesn't something like this from Liz Cheney force an even further devaluation of it? Doesn't it now seem like there isn't anything the President of the United States can do, including saluting the coffins of the dead, that will not bring virulent, unthinking criticism from Cheney family members?
Well, it certainly seems that way, because this was pretty innocent, okay? You know, they asked the families for their approval. There was one family that said so. That was the only picture there was. And beyond that, it just strikes me that there's an attempt to politicize not just the troops, and there was plenty of photo ops with troops through the entire period of the Bush presidency and the Bush re-election campaign. But beyond that, to politicize the fallen. It has been a tradition, not just in this country, but every other country that commemorates the war dead, that it is a national, even an international symbol. So I don't understand why you'd want to play political games with it. I really don't.